So this is season 1 of The Art of Danzo, episode 5, Mind Flow. What mind flow is a way that we can control our emotions, so we can go in and out of a good positive flow state at will. So I shared in the previous video that we have 4 brains. We have the reptilian brain, which is the oldest part of ourselves, the part that's deep down. It sits on top of the spinal cord that controls your nervous system and then everything above. Is the limbic system, which is your mammalian brain. These are the emotional centers of your brain. And then you have the cortex, which is the thinking part of yourself. And then you have the higher part, the 4th brain, which is the spiritual center. So we're not going to get into that for now. But in the 2nd brain, your limbic system, there are different parts. You have the amygdala, you have the hippocampus, you have the hypothalamus, the thalamus, and these are the areas that sit right above the brainstem. Right after the reptilian brain comes the mammalian brain, which gives you your emotions, your drives, and so forth. Now, these things, your emotions can take over sometimes. I have a hard time controlling my emotions. I was a drug addict. When I was 17 years old, my neighbor, Philip, he had an uncle, and he started training us, to do Russian martial arts, Russian Systema. And I practiced since I was started when I was 15, 16, 17, and then when I was 19, I was injured in a training session. One of the advanced students twisted my neck. And then I tried opiates for the first time. And I liked it, maybe a little bit too much. But I didn't do it any more than that because it scared me. But then when I was 20, I was involved in a big car accident. This car accident kind of messed me up. It hurt my back a lot, and the doctors prescribed me painkillers. And I started taking them, and, I got kind of hooked, got addicted. But then I understood that I had a problem, and, that I had to stop. And then when I was 21, big problem happened in my family, and half my family died in one day. These are my little nephews, and I love them very much. House burnt down, and I went completely insane. And then my drug addiction just took a turn for the worst. And these addiction lasted, it progressed first from Oxycontin, and then they stopped making oxys, and then heroin came out, and then I started shooting up. And by the time I stopped, I was about 26, but I noticed that I was like a mess. My emotions were all over the place. I couldn't control myself. And even though I'm 36 years old now, 10 years later, sometimes I can't control myself properly emotionally. I feel broken. And it helps me. What helps me a lot is to understand, what's going on. What's going on inside the head. What's going on in the brain. Why do I feel the way I feel? Why is it so hard for me to control myself? Well, if you look at the emotional centers, this 2nd part of your brain, the mammalian brain that controls you, the limbic system, for example, it functions in a certain way. And if you understand how that function works, you can kind of predict certain things. You can respond accordingly, you can say. And then you have a little bit more of control, a little bit more control of your emotions. Because a person like myself, a person with previous drug history, or someone with serious PTSD and God knows how many issues, it's very hard for me to control my emotions. But if I can step back and kind of observe myself from the side, kind of figure out what's going on from how to analyze myself properly, then I can kind of gain control of myself a little bit. For example, when you are at the mercy of your emotions, it is not good. So you have, basic emotions. You love, and then you have fear. And you're always constantly going in and out of one of these 2 areas. Either it's love or it's fear. But there are others, emotions. You have anger, happiness, sadness, joy, curiosity. There's so many of them. And sometimes they'll take control of you. You can be driving down the street. Somebody cuts you off. And you're like, what the hell? You just start yelling, Durak, bled. Watch where you're going. And that's not good. But it's like, how do I control these things? What do I do to gain a little bit of an understanding of what's going on inside of me at that given point in time? if you understand what's going on inside of you, you can back up a little bit, observe yourself from the side, and then you can have a little bit more control. That control gives you power. So you can be in a bad situation, like I was saying earlier, and then be like, stop. Hit the brakes, be like, no, I'm not going to let this anger, I'm not going to let this part of me control me, because I have more power than that. The good way to control ourselves is to control the flow state. So how do you go in and out of flow? For example, this is a positive emotion. I mean, when you're working, for example, and you get caught up in what you're doing, when you're engrossed, you can say, in the task at hand, you lose track of time, you forget about your surroundings, all your problems go away. You don't care about anything else except for what you're doing at that given time. It consumes you for the moment. And that is a very positive thing, because you forget about your problems, you forget about your anger, you forget about your sadness, your loneliness, your stress, everything kind of goes away. And it gives you a little bit of joy in life. Those are the good emotions. You have love and fear, you have anger, sadness, and then you have joy, curiosity, and happiness. And how do we get more of that? Nobody needs to be taught how to be angry. You don't need to teach a child how to be scared. That's inside of you. It's there from the start. But how do you be happy? How do you find something that's positive in your life? How do you find something that's good? And you can do that by controlling your emotions, by going into a flow state sometimes. So, for example, I had a job one time. I was doing some HVAC work for this company. And they had a big building. And they had a lot of units that needed to be serviced, and it was chaos. It was a big problem. And I came there, and I was not in the best of moods, you can say. But I did my job. I started working, I doing this, and I realized that I just could not control the situation because there was just too much going on. There's a lot of problems, but I controlled two things. I controlled my breathing, number one. I was able to breathe properly. Slow inhalation, slow exhalation. Calm myself down, calm the nervous system down. And then I was able to control my body language. I was able to keep a straight posture. I was able to stand there dominant, like I had authority, like I knew what was going on, even though I really didn't. But those two things kept me stable, even though the situation around me was not good. Everything was kind of messed up. Nothing was going good. The job kind of went south. But the whole time, I maintained a positive state of mind. I had a good state. I was able to control that by my posture and by my breathing. And I was able to change my emotions. And then at the end of the job, then the guy came up to me, the contractor, and he was like, "Good job, Danny. Thank you very much for all your help. You did a good job." And I left. I was like, I have no idea what the hell was going on. I didn't really do a good job, but I was in control. I wasn't in control of the situation so much, I was in control of myself. And because I've learned certain tricks, as damaged as I am, as screwed up as my emotions could be, there are a few techniques that you can use that can change your emotional state, that can go from anger to joy, go from sadness to being happy. And that takes time. It takes practice. It takes a lot of patience. But if you know what to do, like for example, like being able to distance yourself from the situation, distance yourself from your emotions, control your body language, control this body. The body and the mind are connected. And that's where your emotions are. They're in the middle. And your breathing, for example, the breath is like a bridge from the conscious and the subconscious. Your breathing can take you from one to the other. Like, for example, your breathing can get all hyperactive if you're aroused, or your breathing can mellow you out, when you go in a meditative state, when you want to relax. So the breathing, for example, if you learn how to control it, you can go in from one state to another at will. And then by controlling your body language, by keeping a straight back, by being in control of yourself, you can influence and you can change the situation around you. That's mind flow. How do we control our emotions? How do we go in to a positive flow state when in the middle of a negative situation? This is very, very important. And this is all I have to say. Thank you.